Hello, my name is Mary Kazmarek, and I'm the author of Take Charge of Your Legal Career, a practical business development workbook. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to make this brief presentation to you today to amplify some of the concepts in the first chapter of the book. During the 9 years that I was a practicing attorney, I was pretty much mystified by the process of marketing and business development. It was a time when law firms and lawyers first began to talk about shaping their practices and services to the needs of specific target markets. There was little useful information available to associates, which is what I was at the time, about this important business development activity. So fast forward 20 years, which is the amount of time that I've been focused on marketing and business development in law firms. I've learned that business development, its basic strategies and effective practices, they're not rocket science. In fact, any smart and engaged professional can learn to build business. And that's the primary message I want to convey to you. If you enjoy your legal work, you can learn to build more of it if you open your mind and you commit to investing time every day in building relationships with key contacts in the business community and with your existing clients. There's a science to business development, or some basic practices you need to become familiar with. For example, understanding what we call the business development cycle and the typical process for qualifying contacts as potential clients of your practice. There's a logic and a system to those aspects of business development that you need to understand and appreciate. Adopting those practices and making them your own, well, that's the art part of business development. It's customizing the discipline to your own natural style and applying it then to the buying habits of your target market. Learning business development is like learning any skill. Think about, for example, the first time you took a deposition. You probably studied the best practices, reviewed outlines and handbooks, and spoke with a trusted mentor about how to best handle the process. Well, you probably did a serviceable job the first time out. No doubt you saw your skills improve dramatically with each deposition you took. Each time you had a new experience and reflected on what worked well in that deposition and what you wanted to improve the next time around. Over time, you developed greater confidence and obtained better results from intentionally honing your skills and continuing to practice them. It might be difficult for you to remember a time now when you didn't feel comfortable creating a strategy for conducting and taking depositions. After mastering the basics, you developed a unique and winning style of practicing the skill, and it's become second nature at this point. If you commit to studying the best practices for business development as described in the workbook, you'll find that over time as you practice those skills, they too will become customized and comfortable. In other words, studying the behaviors and then practicing them in low-risk business development situations, well, that'll build your muscles for more strategic and profitable situations. One thing that we should talk about at the outset is that business development takes time. It takes time to learn and then to implement. It's one of those business habits that you need to integrate into your everyday work if you want to have a sustaining and profitable practice. As one of my clients said to me recently, you can't microwave business development. Think of the time you spend on business development as an investment in your most important career asset, your law practice. In our profession, we tend to think of non-billable time as non-valuable time. You're going to need to change that inaccurate thought if you want to become a great business developer. Don't get me wrong. For many lawyers who don't understand the strategic process of business development, well, they do waste a good bit of time on ineffective behaviors and practices. But you've got the Practical Business Development Workbook. If you study it, complete the exercises, perform the Take Fives, and commit to investing at least 5 hours a week on strategic business development, you'll find that your efforts begin to pay off almost immediately. So in Chapter 1 of the workbook, we want to get some vocabulary straight. I want you to understand the business discipline of marketing and the marketing mix model. When you complete this chapter, you'll see that business development is an aspect of marketing. Essentially, it's an aspect of one of the so-called 4 Ps, known as promotion. Most of the time, firm leadership will focus on the marketing mix at the enterprise or the macro level. Your job as the builder of a sustaining practice for yourself is to analyze the marketing mix, and when it comes to your specific practice, to learn promotional behaviors to build your contacts and opportunities with the target market. The first chapter also describes the different types of business development behaviors that are appropriate for different ages and stages of a lawyer's practice. In the same way that the substantive and practical projects you work on as a junior attorney become the stepping stones for more expert tasks as you progress in career, there's a progression to business development activities as well. You want to consider where you are in terms of your progression at this point, and if you need to start backfilling some of the business development behaviors that you might have skipped over. So it's time to get started now. Each chapter in the workbook builds on the one that goes before it, so I encourage you to read the book and do the exercises in the order in which they're presented to you. My commitment in writing this book is to share with you 20 years of experience in the business development process. I've learned to build business and to create more opportunities to do the work I love in a profitable and comfortable way. And you can do it too. Let's get started.